Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
Online banking fraud. What was the next
When
principle?
online banking fraud is launched, from the process of the online banking fraud, the victims' identities were used in order to use them as double crimes for the electoral fraud. Because the banks are behind of this shit.
Okay.
So this is a search, and the banks never wanted to solve this problem because there is an algorithm that I will show you and I will present it in the right moment.
Okay.
That it will prove that from each fraud, the bank is winning and the citizen is paying. They want to hide this shit from 20 years ago.
Okay.
So this is the primary crime, and because of this shit, they need to use the identities in order to secure the next president and the next power in charge, in order to cover up everything. So it's all about the money. It's all about the power. They just need to find the right way. And in order to find this way, they have three actors. One, of course, they are the banks. Second, the people in charge, politicians and authorities. And they needed the third actor, who can be the Patsy. That's the hackers.
Yeah. Okay. So in our case, with regards to election fraud, Dominion voting system,
Exactly.
Okay.
We have done quite a bit on election fraud over the last 6 years. You'd be hard-pressed not to find another show that concentrates as heavily on it as I have. And not just because of the Eric Coomer deal, but because once you dig into it, once you decide that, okay, let me go back for a minute. Of all the times that somebody's asked me, hey, Joe, will you look at this? Will you dig into this? Of all the times that has happened, I have always come out and pursued feverishly the truth. Always. And if you go back to my time that I spent going to the Middle East and Africa and working over there, I was asked to look at water. And I'm like, well, we can fix that pretty easy. And they're like, oh, $120 million. And I was like, no, I think we can do it for like 11. And they're like, oh, it's impossible. I said, you take out the grift and everything works out. And if you don't like it, I'll just take my toys and go home. Or we talk about Darfur and Susan Rice coming in and saying there was genocide and ethnic cleansing and going after President al-Bashir. I say this a lot because the ultimate goal for me was like, okay, morbid curiosity, is there ethnic cleansing and genocide going on there? The answer is no, there wasn't. It didn't exist. And so I wrote this whole thing and sent it out. It says, all right, here's what's going on in Darfur. Now in America, much like they always do, they create this, this picture of this tyrant. And this is so often the case, and it all comes down to power and money. And in Sudan's case, it came down to both of those things. Susan Rice went to President al-Bashir and said, you'll do this. And this is, on the heels of, the oil-rich area called the Abyei districts that's between North and South Sudan. And they came up with this whole thing that they're killing Christians in South Sudan and they're slaughtering people in Darfur. But none of it was true. None of it was true. It's like Kyle Clark on steroids in Colorado. just makes it up as it goes along, and people actually believe the drivel. The reality is much different than what they say. And then you have evil people like Susan Rice, the bad Susan Rice, who is diabolical and has done diabolical things, who said, I know what the perfect thing is. We'll have him charged at the Hague with war crimes. And we'll just say that he committed genocide and ethnic cleansing, and it was a state-sponsored killing of his own people. But he left out historic information and the geographic area and the topography of the area for Darfur, left out the Janjaweed, the Chadian rebels, the 43 Darfurian rebel groups, the Chadians. I mean, you name it. An area that, by the way, has been intermarrying for thousands of years. There's no genocide or ethnic cleansing going on there. Do people die? Yes, absolutely. People die. It's the tribal conflicts in many parts of North Africa are pretty. They've been going on for generations. But it's not state-sponsored genocide or ethnic cleansing. It's not like President al-Bashir sat in a little room with a map and said, go in there and kill these people and rape with impunity. That never happened. But again, the America that we know is not the America that holds people accountable. It's the one that creates and institutes foreign policy and a narrative that 99% of the time just isn't true. And if you go look at some of the other things that I was able to do, you talk about South Sudan. I remember being in South Sudan and saying, okay, they want to split the country in half. They want to have this referendum vote. And so you had the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, you had the Darfurian Peace Agreement, you had the Eastern Peace Agreement. So basically the United States came in and just Wreck-It Ralph, with the CIA being in large part responsible for funding out terroristic activities to destabilize an entire nation because of minerals, uranium, oil. And a lot of people died. And in the middle of all this stuff that they said, oh, we're just here to help, which, by the way, they signed the Comprehensive Peace Agreement down in Nairobi, Kenya. In the middle of all of that, the destruction of the healthcare system inside of the hospital system inside of Sudan went to nothing. The education system destroyed. It looked like Detroit in some of the worst times. And the killings, and they said, oh, there's mines at the border of South Sudan. That was true, but who put them there? And when you start answering the questions, it got really uncomfortable. Fast forward the Millennium Project, and we have a guest that's here that's going to be joining us to talk about why I'm talking about this stuff. But then you had the Millennium Projects, the Millennium Villages that are designed to destroy and to eliminate poverty all over Africa, run by a guy named Jeffrey Sachs. I remember sitting at the bar. A guy walks up, sits down next to me, and starts just having small talk. And I knew at that moment this guy was CIA. I knew. And the things that I was doing, he would ask lots of questions, and I just didn't answer. I was smart enough not to want to rattle the cage. And after a few minutes of asking questions, I'm like, oh yeah, what are you here for? I'm just here to vacation. Well, he knew that wasn't true. But the information, when I went around and went to these Millennium Villages, and I listened to all the reports that were being told about eliminating poverty, and they were creating this commerce system that was going to allow for food and resources to flow to different villages around the continent. It wasn't true. So I went to these Millennium Villages, and there was no economic activity at all. There was no food, there was no trucks, there was no workers. It was a lie. It was a $6-7 billion project. So I remember getting on the BBC radio because I wrote this report and sent it out. And they're like, hey, will you come on and debate Jeffrey Sachs? So I got on this talk radio. I don't even remember how I got on it. I think I was talking to somebody else at work somewhere in the NGO world. And I said, you're full of shit. And then it dawned on me. I started going, Columbia University is like the CIA hub. I was talking about USAID being a CIA thing way back in 2012. I was talking about the information that would come out of different areas and the fact that there were all these, everywhere you looked, there was something that just wasn't right. And the story that the United States got back and the people got in the United States was much different than what really was happening in any country that I stepped foot in, whether it be Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Lebanon, Libya, you name it, Chad, Egypt, Syria. Remember, you had the Arab Spring happening in this time frame. And the amount of conflict that was happening in Middle Africa on the continent with Rwanda, DRC. You have the Niger Delta and what happened there. You have Ghana and the fact that they had these bodies that just flowing down the river into a crawl. I mean, you had lots of stuff that was happening all at the same time. It was absolute chaos, pandemonium even. Chinese were just starting to get their claws into different areas and funding different road projects and giving them what they need because the United States couldn't do it. They came in and said that they're here to help. And you have things like the World Vision that has a place in Kibera, which is the slums of Africa, 1.1 square miles, 1.2 million people that live in it. And it's $300 million they spent over 3 decades, $300 million. All they have to show for it is pit latrines and shanty sacks with power that goes up and is stolen from nearby power poles. I mean, you want to talk about, indexing poverty and creating an environment where people have to stay poor and stay broke. It happens. It's an industry in the United States in order to give cover to do things that they need to do economically or in foreign policy, because they don't respect the sovereignty of any other nation. People would ask me all the time, like, Joe, why do you care so much and why are you digging under the covers? And then so much so that when I wrote a report for a different issue, they came to me and said, take your name off it. And I was like, okay, why? I didn't care. I wasn't there for the recognition. And in large part, that's not what I got into, uncovering the election stuff either. But this authenticity to actually chase this true north led me to a place where people would reach out to me all the time and they're like, Joe, I have this information. And it's a heavy burden. You want to know what a heavy burden is? It's a super heavy burden. The heavy burden of being able to protect a guy that you find out later used the name of an 18th century civil rights leader. And it cost me $160,000 to protect his name, thinking that, hey, he's going to get killed. It takes an immense amount of fortitude to sit up and stand up for people that would never stand up for you, that would walk across your grave, spit on you when they were walking by, not recognize the sacrifices that you're making. And it takes even more to be morbidly curious, because that's what it is. If you think that the left or the right, this establishment, two wings of the same bird, has any sort of appetite for the truth that is told, they don't. Neither one does. It rattles the conscience and it creates an environment where it is unstable for their power structure. Who moved my cheese? Well, the thing that we're going to talk about right now, and my friend, and I want to preface this by saying we're going to talk about Raul again. Raul's in prison right now in Romania. Nearly served 2/3 of a sentence that he was given. Trumped up charges with a politician in the middle of it, running for his life while trying to give up information in the United States. Reached out to me in 2022. I reached out to a group of people. I'll let our guest decide whether or not he's going to tell us some of that information. But in 2022, I got a phone call from Victor. Victor's like, hey, we have all the information. We know how the fraud exists. Now, everything that just came out with President Trump is the exact information that I presented in 2022. It's identical. Only we had the source information. We had the meetings with the FBI. We had the working for an organization that was a CIA and now British intelligence front. And this is not hyperbolic statements. These aren't things that I'm saying are not made up. They're absolutely real. And getting involved in this is providential because I don't care about Eric Coomer. Eric Coomer is just a symptom of a larger problem. He's a radical leftist that decided he would put his finger on the scale and build a system that allowed for the American people to become institutional slaves. So after Eric Coomer, I was less interested in him and the fact that he's a liar and he sued me for it. And he's done nothing but lie since and has lied in every statement that he's given, whether it be to a grand jury or in a deposition. He can't help himself. He can't remember it. I mean, his whole persona is built on a lie. But what the bigger lie is the fact that Dominion Voting Systems was responsible for stealing the voice of the American people. And so was Smartmatic, and so was ESNS, and so was Hart InterCivic. And they all worked together to move up the chain and to go to Cyto and to Edison. And it's like one big grift against the American people. But I was headed to Romania to meet with Raul personally in 2022. We have videos, we'll pull it up. Maybe we should at some point go through it. Maybe we'll do it. Not this week. You see Patrick shaking his head. No. But I was headed there. Well, you know what? I'm gonna welcome our guest on. And you're not going to be able to see his face, in large part because we have to protect him from, bad people. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Joe, how's it going? Welcome back, man. Thanks for having me back.
Good. I want to go back to 2022. All set,
Okay.
got a flight, headed out to you. We were headed over to Romania. We had a plan, very well lit plan. And the goal was to gather up all this information, hard data, folders of information, real stuff like you put your fingers and your hands on, right? And what happened?
Well, that's that plan, which we had we had invested a lot of time and effort into that particular plan, which involved them as well having to traverse a very long distance to essentially what was a neutral venue, right?
Yeah.
Um,
But I didn't make it because they kept canceling my flight.
Yeah, you weren't even allowed to leave the country. And so this really kind of put a kink in our plan, and that's when I went to plan B, and I managed to get in and out of there in less than a day. And I'm not sure if you guys want the whole story, but it was a very stressful day. I got onto the plane. I won't say from where, but I got onto the plane and we were held up on the ramp, right? Well, police end up boarding the aircraft. I'm thinking, well, this is unique. Okay, so
Yeah.
what's this about? So we were delayed about an hour. Again, the issue had nothing to do with me. And so I arrive. I got in there, and let me tell you, it almost looked like a refugee center, like an asylum center. It was just packed nut to butt with Ukrainians primarily. So I ended up exiting the terminal. Raul's guys were supposed to meet me, but I decided against meeting internally, just due to the amount of security that was there. And I managed to find him. I went outside and I tracked him down, and from there we went to a hotel. And this was a very brief meeting, because again, this was in and out with this, because basically the way it works is it takes a little bit of time for certain identifications to populate through border checks. And so I knew that my window was basically going to be anywhere from about 90 minutes to 2 hours to get in and get out. So I do that. I get all the information, meet with Raul. You've obviously played that meeting, that interview I did with him and Victor. And after that, we immediately, closed up shop, hurried back to the airport. It also, because that was also my last possibility to get out for the day. And that was going to present a whole new slew of problems, because I was going to have to drive back, or do some other type of exfiltration in order to get back. But I managed to do that. I go in through airport security, and keep in mind, I'm very normal looking. I look, my appearance is not, I'm not dressed like an American or like a European or whatever. I'm dressed very much like a
You have your
local,
job
like
on?
someone from the Balkans. No,
no
I had
hijab.
on the Adidas. I had on the drug dealer Adidas sweatsuit that they all wear in the Balkans. No, but so anyways, I
This is
ended
true.
up getting pulled for a random security check. And I had the documents on me. And I had done the usual, brought some clothes, made it look like I was doing an overnight trip, nothing suspicious. You don't ever want to go do a trip like that with empty suitcases. It's
They're pulling you over
It's
for
a bad
sure
look.
if you do
So
that. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So anyways, we end up going through and they open up my baggage, and the cop looks directly at the binder, and then he just looks at me, and I say, journalist, American journalist. He goes, okay, just zipped it back up, didn't look at it, and just waved me right through. And that was it. Ended up having an immediate meeting with some of the guys, going over some of the information in there. And situations like that, we talk about going into precarious situations, just got to keep your head on, keep your honest swivel, keep your wits about you. And
And it got a little precarious. You guys had to enter from a different place, leave a different way. I mean, it wasn't.
Yeah, we did.
There was.
Yeah,
it was rendition almost.
Yeah, it was. It really kind of was. So we ended up going to a few different venues and jumping, changing vehicles before we ended up at our final spot where we had basically paid cash for this place. We walked in. We had people who were on the perimeter to do any type of lookout. There were a few instances where there's some interesting figures who approached. The police also arrived at the venue for another set of issues involving another occupant. But we were there, we did the interview, we took all the notes, and then we left again, then we switched vehicles again, and then that was it. Basically, after that, it became blending in like a tourist again. But we knew that there were people following us after the hotel. So we took the appropriate measures. And again, this was the point too about getting in and out, especially in an airport that's so inundated, and why it's important. So yeah, I mean, that's what happened with that day. But the information presented was irrefutable. I mean, you can't deny what he had possession of.
Okay, so most people that are listening don't understand. They can't even fathom the idea of what we're talking about here. We went in to gather information directly related to the stealing of elections, not just in 2020, but in going on by Raul standards, been going on for over a decade, right? And he had information when we did that interview that other people wouldn't have had. Like, it's not like it would have been institutional knowledge in Romania that these things were happening. And we had him literally, he had text messages with the FBI. We have logs where he logged in to go to the embassies to meet with the FBI. He had worked for Fox IT, which is directly related to the CIA. It was a CIA front. Okay.
Well, he also had more than that as well. He had his text message group offering him basically a hush money job in DC. Working with some guys from an entity called New York Cyber on Darknet, a program called Darknet. And Fox IT, keep in mind, Fox IT at the time, then Secretary of State Brian Kemp signed a third-party escrow agreement with Fox IT for them to be the third-party escrow agent for Dominion Voting, which means that they then had Dominion Voting's source code in their possession as they were the third-party escrow agents, in case any type of litigation reared its head or whatever. So Fox IT, its parent company, is a British super security firm, NCC Group. And there's another really kind of weird nexus through Surrey Security or Surrey Satellite Technology Labs, SSTL, and their director, who was actually at a blockchain convention with Antonio Mujica from Smartmatic, and they were working on developing blockchain election technology. Really kind of just really interesting coincidence with that. But Fox IT is again owned by NCC Group. NCC Group recently just purchased Iron Mountain intellectual property, and they were the third-party escrow agents for ES&S voting. So now NCC Group, this British firm, as a third-party escrow agent, holds source code for both Dominion Voting and ES&S.
And NCC, hold on. NCC acquired Fox IT. Let me just go back to that real quick. There was an M&A. They acquired Fox IT. So the company that holds the source code, NCC, holds in escrow the source code for ES&S and Dominion.
Correct.
Okay.
Because of the contract. Then Secretary.
I want to make sure everyone understands the connection here.
And the interesting point is, too, this was then Secretary of State Brian Kemp. And remember, Dominion didn't even come onto the scene until after the Kennesaw hack. So this.
Do you think it's a coincidence?
No, I do not.
You don't think that Raul, who came forward, by the way, reached out to me in 2022, said, look, I know that you'll tell the truth about this. I need your help. I have all the information related to the election fraud, which, by the way, just so you know, does it not align with what President Trump just said and the information that was just released?
Well, yeah, and also to that point too, we've discussed roaming networks probably ad nauseum at this point, and the convenient fact that their very first physical field office, their corporate headquarters were set up in Chicago. They registered in Alaska, but Joe, do you know where their very first field office was located and when they set it up? Roaming Networks, which built the pure flash storage for Dominion Voting.
Pure flash storage.
Clients.
No, go ahead.
Dominion Voting.
Yes.
So their other clients, they're partnered with Huawei. Their other clients include the Bank of China, Meta, which is sanctioned, Megvii, which has the Face++ technology, again, also sanctioned. In some countries. But guess when they set up their first office? Roaming set up their first office, and where they set it up at? It wasn't the Burr Ridge place. We know that. You went there.
Yeah.
No, their first field office was set up about 90 days in Tarrant County, about 90 days before Hyder Garcia became the director of elections for Tarrant County.
Wait, what?
The only field.
How did I not know that? Roaming Network set that up?
Yeah.
All right, guys, I have the thing that I just put in there. Make sure you pull this up. This is the Roaming Networks document. This goes through Roaming Networks. This is from Roaming Networks. This is Dominion and Roaming. This is a PowerPoint that was brought, that's their PowerPoint. So this PowerPoint is from Roaming Networks. Okay. Goes through the references, and in the references, it talks about what they did themselves and who their main business partners are. So let's pull that up if we can. I'll give you guys a minute. Okay.
That's actually not a PowerPoint. That was a PDF they had produced, and it was stored on their old archives. Because
but it's in you'd say it's a PDF PowerPoint, same thing, right?
Yeah. So that document doesn't exist online anymore.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. So I was able to grab a few different variations of it, and
Well, we have the can-see as well, right? So we do have the Dominion Serbia can-see copy document as well. We have the source file information,
Yeah.
including date of birth, age, social security number, address, which we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But as soon as I get this
Yeah,
up,
no, I would love to go through that list. Yeah, because that list, which was provided to us for Raul, so just a little bit of genesis here. So Raul provided us with a myriad of information, and he provided us with a sample set of 500 names. Now, this was a sample pool size of what he had claimed to be anywhere from 50 to 100 million, not just US, but international. At least 50 million were US only, but the other 50 were from a variety of other countries, to include the United Kingdom, Israel, Italy, Spain, Czech Republic, and a few other places. And these were then used to not only double as your conventional ID, identification theft or ID fraud cases wherein someone has their ID stolen and they're duplicated effectively. But what he had also illustrated to was the fact that these were actual digital IDs which weren't attached to any specific corporeal form. So what does that mean? These are actual, by all accounts, legitimate people within the digital sphere, the digital domain, but there's not an actual human body attached to these, call them profiles, if you will. And they were using these to create financial systems, financial structures, different accounts, whatever, in order to be able to launder money through these different accounts. And that required then the subsequent ID theft, and then leading to the tertiary system, the tertiary crime being the electoral fraud, in order to put the people in place who know what's going on, but will just willingly turn a blind eye to it, as he alluded to in the video at the opening, in the intro. And what he had also provided us with was also a copy of his payment. I'm sure we'll see it later, from Fox IT during his employment at Fox IT. So he worked for Fox IT. He also worked for the SRI, which is the Romanian Intelligence Services, as well as the Romanian Army at one point in the offset. And he showed me the brown book passport, everything, had the cut tip on it, which is official government business passports that we'll use even for, let's say, not so official duties. In Raul's case, what he was working on.
Yeah, so I want to keep this going so people can stay connected to us. They understand. Let's put up just the proof of Raul working for Fox IT. Let's put that up first. This is the Fox IT, an actual letter. So this is the document that he gave us, and this is: I'm writing to inform you that as of June 1st, 2016, your monthly fee will be adjusted from 2,000 to 3,000 euros based on 40-hour work week. All articles of employment agreement remain in effect. We trust you have informed you enough. We would like to receive a signed copy of this letter for return, signed for approval. So this is the letter he got from
Fox IT.
Fox IT.
And for context too, just so people know, 2,000 to 3,000 euros is not much in America. In Romania, it's a completely different story in Romania. So just consider that for context. So again, Fox IT, the company which had Dominion voting.
So I've been going through some of the files. So Fox IT has the source code for Dominion voting systems. Now Raul's job was to basically
farm identification.
Yeah. And so let me show you this next one. This is the spreadsheet of verified stolen IDs. Let's go ahead and put that up.
And he also provided me with an actual bank statement showing payment to his account with his bank account number to Corani Consulting from Fox IT.
Well, and just so you know, we were able to verify. So you see the ones in green? Those are the ones that are verified. These are verified people.
So with this specific data set,
These
out
are
of
verified in
500 of those
2022.
named,
Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah. So Raul gave us an incomplete data set. He would give us some names with like driver's license numbers or social security number, or it would be like a social security number matched to a driver's license number, or like it would be some of them, some of the profiles had complete, name, date of birth, address, driver's license number, but a good majority of them only had like 2 or 3 of those data points. And so what we did was we used some closed source materials capabilities to do a little bit of investigative work and pull out the rest of the IDs and profiles. And what we found was that out of the 500, 376 of those were able to be confirmed. So if we scale that up to his estimation of, again, let's say it's going to be 50 million US, because the names we got were just US names. We go from 500 to 50 million, that's 37. That's over 37 million verified, duplicated, or false IDs, which by all intents and purposes appear legitimate. And the craziest part about this is within the data set, there was one name we had. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the movie Walking Tall, but the sheriff in there, his name's Buford T. Pusser, right? There was a profile for someone born on 1/1/1898 with the name Buford T. Pusser, who actually had a legitimate, verified social security number, valid. So think about that for a second. Someone, Buford T. Pusser, fictional character, 1898, not a duplicated social security number, an actual valid social security number attached to that name.
Wow.
And to me, that suggests that, that just affirms effectively that there's substantially something more here than just, your typical case of, anonymous and hacker IDs and other things he was able to present as well. And, we can present part of that image, not the full image. Parts of it will be blacked out. But they also provided screenshots of federal law enforcement databases. These are actual, not only were some of these actual computer image screenshots, which were printed out, but some of them were taken on cell phones and other devices as well, and then printed out as well. And some of these documentation even includes like ATM pins, just stuff like that. Like these guys had people's ATM pins. Raul, he presented ATM pin from a woman in Boston. So
yeah, so
not just
I'm sorry, I was doing some research on the other person that was on the employment letter for Raul and traced him to Priva, and then traced not just to Priva, but to Ryberg. And then from
Walter
Ryberg
Dorgwin.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Walter, yeah, he was that was his actual position at Fox IT as well. That letterhead is genuine.
Yeah, no, it is. He shows that he was there for 6.5 years at Fox IT, but the connections to Priva, which is out of Holland, to the CIA and intelligence community is pretty well known. And then from there, he goes to work for Ryberg, which is a little bit interesting, to say the least. And then from there, goes to Martin Stolz. So, I mean, I guess I'm looking at this I'm looking at this from the perspective of who works for Fox IT and what is Fox IT actually doing? Is there any legitimate business that we're doing?
Yeah, they actually were. Fox IT does a lot of like private contracting, like fintech investigations, a lot of it in the Eastern Bloc. We talked about them earlier. BTCE was one of them, which was this ancient Russian oligarch firm, and they were part of the investigation to infiltrate into that entity. So they do have like very much a legitimate footprint. So Fox IT actually started off as a Dutch company. If you remember, Smartmatic, it actually became Smartmatic International BV, and its registration was in the Dutch Antilles. So, yeah.
Okay, let's look at this next document real quick. We show the documents of the verified stolen IDs. These are IDs we were able to confirm in 2022, a vast majority of them that were real. So Raul would not have access to this if he wasn't actually harvesting IDs and information related to them pushing it back to the United States. Some of the people that we were able to verify lived in one state and were actually voting in another state and had no idea that they were voting in that other state. So again, this comes down to dirty voter rolls, and it comes down to people basically harvesting and creating databases of people that voted that never voted. Okay, just so we're clear. This just shows you how the system, Dominion and others, remember, NCC holds the source code for Dominion. And NCC acquired Fox IT, which did the biddings of the CIA, and now more likely the British intelligence based on where they're located. Let's talk about this document. This is the account listing. Let's put that up. So walk through this for me, B.
So also what he was able to present was a listing of various different account numbers. You'll see, believe it or not, George Soros is actually listed on here, and he has his account number from 1997. That's how far back a lot of this information goes. This is when he alleged from 1997 to 2005, Soros was using this fund to bankroll Joe Biden. And again, this goes back just that far back. You have another financial document I sent to you because, again, these guys were mass harvesting financial information, these data profiles for these accounts. You have another one that I sent, which was of Citibank, and it was $300 million. It's $300 million in the account for Exxon, and he provided this as well. Again, this isn't just some normal random account. This is Exxon. This is one of the largest corporations in the world with hundreds of millions of dollars. And they're mass harvesting all this as well.
So they're harvesting all the information related to where money is sitting.
Correct. Okay. Some of it they put there themselves. Others, it's just a methodology to track these different accounts.
Let me ask you a question. As you talk to Raul, did you ever get the sense that what he was doing when he's coming forward with all this information, that there was any credibility issues related to Raul?
No, I really didn't, because it's cui bono, who benefits. Raul had nothing to gain. As a matter of fact, he had a lot to lose from this, and I think he had proven his employment enough to really kind of assuage any doubts we had about his credibility. Now, in the public sphere, they've given him the usual tarred and feathered treatment, which is partially why he's sitting in prison right now. But they've attempted really to just kind of disappear him almost from the public purview. I mean, what little you will see about him in English usually just comes from agitprop accounts that are just trying to smear him without actually again looking at any of the data. But when we had former federal law enforcement and other individuals, lawyers, private investigators, etc., private intelligence services look at this information, everyone came to the same conclusion that this is legitimate information. Not in any other period in time, this would be a gold mine, for the public sphere, for any type of journalist or whatever. And he reached out to the New York Times, actually. As a matter of fact, he coordinated with this was the same team that actually, the very same team that got the Nobel Prize for the Russiagate misinformation, disinformation. I think Raul had some bad actors, some people who gave him some really bad advice as to how we need to proceed here, almost from the get-go. And yeah, the same people from Russiagate completely buried the story because it would have painted Trump in a positive light.
Okay, so let's go to the next one. This is one of the things we're concerned about, is that he couldn't prove, you have this letter, he couldn't prove that he actually worked for Fox IT. So what he did is he actually provided us the ING Bank statement from 2016 showing the deposits that came in for working for Fox IT. And you can see where it says Fox IT BV. It shows the sums, August 10, 2016. So he gave us some statements that were from Fox IT. See that? Okay. And then we have this, U.S. law enforcement databases. Let's walk through this, B.
This right here is a screenshot. It's obviously been minimized. There was a much larger screenshot of an actual federal law enforcement database, which included an active felon who was incarcerated in Louisiana. We had access to the FBI case numbers, to his social security number, etc. And this was just one screenshot he had presented us. He presented us with multiple others.
But he had full access to lots of databases.
He showed us an actual warrant for a diagram of a warrant for a wiretap in Colorado. He also showed us emails between ATF agents, an actual federal task force, and the Greeley, Colorado Police Department. And the fact that they targeted Greeley, Colorado, which is really kind of the home of the private intelligence contracting world, is very significant in itself. You go onto clearancejobs.com, half the jobs on there are listed in Greeley. So, that presents a whole nother set of issues, and how we would deal with that. But you'll see it is a confidential record, as you can see right up there in the top right. And it's been difficult, to say the least, to get anyone to touch this, because effectively what happens, because of the source of the information, well, I'm not going to go into that part, how that part plays out, and why the what has to it's so difficult, such a sensitive issue for federal law enforcement. It's got nothing to do really with the FBI. It's got everything to do with
how we got access to
with another three-letter intelligence agency.
Yeah, so this leads to, and I want everyone to understand this, and I know that B, I'm going to respect your time because we're going to do this again and pull out more information. I am going to take all this information back to DC. This will be the third time that I've taken this information to DC. So you and I will sit down and make sure that we have all the information correct, the documentation, that I'm not missing anything. I think I pretty well got it filled out, but we'll take that information to DC. And but this aligns almost. It doesn't align with. It bolsters all the information that you have directly related to the FBI information, dating back to the information that President Trump declassified, dating all the way back to 2015. It's almost it mimics it. It parallels it. B?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean,
I feel like I'm losing.
No, man. Sorry, no, I was trying to come off the mute there. No, absolutely. And I think that with these disclosures, we probably where, I know there are ongoing investigations into this. I think what Solomon reported is probably just scratching the surface, and I think it's good for the normies, as we should call them, just to kind of massage people into future information that could potentially come out. But it's a good start, and it shows that the credibility of Chris Krebs and the rest of the most secure election ever crowd has just completely been destroyed. And I'm proud to say that I have been an absolute thorn in their side. Renee DiResta, the director of the Stanford Internet Observatory, has completely blocked me. I've never even mentioned her name publicly. Dmitry Alperovich, too, CrowdStrike co-founder. He doesn't like me either.
But the problem is that as we start scratching the surface here, I want to be very specific. All I care about is stealing the voice of the American people. If you're with Team Evil and you want to go out and be a cartel member, go ahead and be a cartel member. But give the voice of the American people back their voice. Just give it back, right? Stop with these kabuki theater elections in all 50 states, and frankly, we'll take care of the rest. But I don't think that I don't think that people understand just how bad it really is. And I think that's the underlying underpinnings of what we're going to talk about today. So B, thanks for joining us. I appreciate you very much. I know you got stuff that you want to do. I got some stuff that I want to go over here real quick. But thanks for joining the show.
Yeah, but no problem. Just we'll touch base again later. Thanks for having me. All right, guys. Bye.
God bless you.
God bless.
We're going to go to commercial break. When we come back, I'm just going to recap a little bit of what we just talked about and the implications of it. We'll also show the roaming network, so you understand roaming networks and where it was. And there's some other information related to roaming being in Chicago, and it's tied to trucking companies all over the country, which is tied to a Serbian network that is then tied to those trucking companies. But you can't make this stuff up. It is a very elaborate scheme across the entire country of foreigners that have infiltrated and taken over the very soul of our nation. We'll be right back.
Oh, hi. I almost didn't see you there. Welcome to DCF Buns, where you can find the freshest buns in town, if I do say so myself. Oh, our master bakers teach class every week. So whether you're new to baking or trying to improve your culinary skills, we got you covered. And we can help you bake the cake of your dreams. We'll even clean your cake if you want. And if you don't want to bake anything yourself, we have loads of fresh buns available in a variety of shapes and sizes. Check us out at dcfbuns.com to learn more. DCF Buns, we keep the buns hot and the deals hotter. Buns.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle. You know, at some point, we're going to have to get to the quiet part out loud, so to speak. And that is, they keep telling us there's nothing to see here. They say President Trump doesn't know anything and that he basically falsified things. You had people in every state, from Adam Schiff to, you had Republicans that were coming out saying there's nothing to see here. You had John Solomon say, Well, not that we're seeing in the intelligence documents that there was any ballot switching. Here's the problem, is that you can only see the smoke, you can't see the gun. And the reason why you can't see the fire and you can't see the gun is because it's hidden behind government bureaucracies that are covering up for the thieves, the liars, the cheats, the treasonous traitors that have stolen the voice of the American people. Now, they want to tell you over and over again that they haven't done those things. They want to tell you that, you have people, and I'll just use this as an example, you have people like Kyle Clark that come out and say that I called for the hanging of my political adversaries. I don't have political adversaries. There's no such thing as a political adversary in my book. There are people that committed treason. I mean, you can have a difference of opinion. I'm okay with that. But the fact that he can use dog whistles and use defamation in order to tear me down, call me a MAGA podcaster, I could run circles around 99% of the people out there when it comes to tech innovations and system architecture. I don't know. I see dead people. There's a reason why when I dig into something, I get to the very bottom of it very quickly. I come to conclusions not based on feelings, but based on facts. And every time I get out there, the constant thing that I hear from the radical left is the dog whistles in order to attack the character of those that are speaking the truth. And it's not just me. We talk about David Clements, we can talk about Rudy Giuliani, Lara Logan. I mean, there's plenty. Kyle Seraphin, Steve Friend, Steve Baker. I mean, guys that literally, and the reputation of me fighting feverishly towards the truth has led to Joe just, he's a very angry individual. I am angry. I'm angry that our children are being groomed. I'm angry that we're having to go through this, whatever this is, that we have to debate the ridiculous on whether or not there are more than two genders. We leave science at the door. We let people walk around on Team Evil and justify what they do and say and walk past crime committed against grandmas and this race war that's being created by the radical left. And it all seems to stem from the same familiar place, same familiar group of people. And I can't even mention the name, because if I do, I become another dog whistle. And when you talk about the subversion against the American people and the fact that there are 7 million Muslims in the United States, and the 7 million Muslims now want halal food, and they want us to basically shut down liquor stores and dictate the sovereignty of our entire nation, then you can start really looking at the weak and pathetic people who have made the American people cattle. When we dug into the elections and we dug into the information we got from Raul, it was at that point, I went from having personal security detail at this time inside my home to an arsenal that I created around my home, making sure that my house was fortified, made sure that I was fully protected, make sure when I went to work I was protected. I mean, there's a reason why my office is right next door to the FBI DHS center. I mean, I figured if they can't get the memo, when I got the DA's office there, I got the FBI right there, I got ICE on the other side. People are like, well, why are you so close to them? They can spy on you. Okay, I got nothing to hide. And the truth does not need any sort of cover. They create cover for it. They create this, whatever it is we're talking about, related to stolen elections, and try to act like they're intellectually honest, but they're not. There's a lot that's been lost over the last couple of decades. And it's not like we haven't been warned. We got warned by Clint Curtis in 2004. And then from there, by the way, I want to point out that it was a Republican that asked a Chinese company that was later indicted to build a system that could subvert the American people's voice and that nobody could see it. A year later, they hired a guy that was a drug addict, a heroin addict, as the chief architect. On the heels of Sequoia Voting Systems being acquired by Smartmatic, a Venezuelan company. And the Ibiza, which is the company, 28% of it's owned by, the Venezuelans. They're the one that's applied the nearly $130 million and which gave them a war chest to come into the United States and do what they did. And it wasn't more than a year later that CIFIS raised their hand and was like, "Man, we gotta get to the bottom of this. We can't let Sequoia voting systems be owned by the Venezuelans." And familiarly enough, they come out, and John Solomon said this. He goes, "Yeah, they stole the elections in Venezuela using their machines, but they didn't steal them here." This word salad from a guy that knows very little, if anything, about system architecture or systems or how the systems run. You could sit in a room with him and ask him questions, you couldn't answer them. I know because I did. I sat in rooms. I sat in a room at Miles Guo, little, free Miles Guo. And I asked him questions, and he'd sit there, smug little fat face in front of me, saying, "Oh, that's horse shit. There's no election fraud. The machines are fine." I mean, I seriously wanted to punch that man right in his face. And the fact that he is the mouthpiece for the things going on inside of this, I find disturbing, because that means somebody put them up to putting John Solomon at the front of the line. Why? Is it done on purpose? Is it done deliberately? Is there some sort of naivete to what he can or cannot provide? Keep in mind, I am not a friend of nearly any, I am an outsider, because I can sniff bullshit faster than anybody can. And I don't put up with it because I think that we don't have time. And I'm not playing for Team Evil. I'm not putting one foot on any side for any length of time. I feel like I should do. I don't know how they're going to take this information from Raul, but I know that based on this information, the information that was just released, if you put it all together, if you just take a basic amount of information that we have, you'll come to the same conclusion. We had this information in 2020. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. They knew that they were stealing, subverting the elections of the American people. They treated us like cattle. They treated us as if we were slaves, that we really are today. And if we're not, then how do they get to dictate that at 13 years old, you as a parent have no rights to have access to information on your children? They're taking from you what's never theirs to take, or that they can transition children behind closed doors, and that we have to take this to a court of law. I mean, it's a basic right that as a parent, your job is to raise them to 18. And the state steps in and says, no, we're going to take care of that. They're our children. They're not your children. Again, we have to debate the ridiculous. Last night, last night I went to Forrest Frank concert. He's got some just great music, God-centered, faith-based music. And I'm listening to them last night talk about courage, talk about standing up for our children. They had this 20-minute thing in the middle of it, and it turned me off. And it wasn't, they were talking about these children in Africa and how they were going to give them access to basic water. Remember that Jeffrey Sachs was over there. He was going to eliminate poverty. Well, the first thing you have to do to eliminate poverty, first thing you have to do to eliminate some of the things that they were able to do in these areas where they'd have, Bill Gates go in there and give syringes to entire communities and basically sterilize all of them and get away with it, because who are they going to tell? They became the guinea pigs for the Team Evil pharma over here in the United States. They said they were there to help. They're going to solve malaria, do all these things. They didn't solve anything. They just murdered people. But we started talking about Africa, and we're in 2026, right? And he showed these pictures of villages where they would walk down to these creek beds and they would put this in the water where you had animals that were pissing and crapping in the water. And it's true. It is true. And he talked about the fact that this 7-year-old would have to walk 14 miles. 14 miles there, 14 miles back in order to get water. It was bad water. It's 2026. And they raised all this money. And I kept thinking to myself, as we're sitting here listening to this, the same thing has been said on TV for 30 years. Same thing. We're talking about children over in Africa. We're going to save them. And as he's speaking, I become mortified by the anemic nature of these Christians, 17,000 Christians in this auditorium. They don't want to fight for children. We can't fight for our own children. We won't stand up and speak truth if it could save our children. We hide in this hole, and we want to throw $39 a month to a child over in Africa. We don't want to talk about the fact that we live in a slave environment. 56 cents on every dollar goes to the government, and they mishandle it, misuse it, use it to basically subvert the voice of the American people, stuff their own faces, become ultra wealthy. And look, I have worked really hard all my life, and I've been very successful. Now that I know how all the sausage is made, I'm not sure I like it. I've been overseas. I've seen kids die of the common cold. But when you have schools that they groom children, and the most important thing is teaching about how white people are bad and creating propaganda and rhetoric, and the parents stay completely silent, or they flee a state and go to a different state because they can't. And I was talking to a friend of mine last night that was there. He's like, yeah, we got to leave Colorado. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. This place is really bad. He's like, it's worse than bad. And they're leaving to go to a different state. They're going to Arizona. And I was like, well, Arizona's not that far behind. And I said to him, I was like, sooner or later, you're going to run until there's no other place to run. And then you're going to end up fighting. And he looked at me and he's like, yeah, that's probably true. It doesn't matter if you saved your child if the society burns down around you. And the biggest problem I have with the American Christian church is that pastors and singers and people that are of authority want to make you feel good but not do good, at least not for you. You're not allowed to talk about elections. You're not allowed to talk about poor leadership that, frankly, some of them are dumber than rocks, or a bureaucracy that takes from you what was never theirs to take, or a lack of fundamental rights when it comes to your First Amendment or Second Amendment, or the fact that even if you do have a First Amendment right, they say freedom of speech but not freedom of reach. We can decide what voice gets to be amplified and what voice gets to be silenced. That's not a free society. That's a slave society. And when we talk about elections and you have people that are institutionally stupid, they're completely complicit in the behavior of these people. Oh, we can patch the computers. You can't patch computers that were designed to actually defraud the American people. You can't. And you can't patch a system that has no transparency. You can't. But these nimrods want to get out there and want to convince President Trump that, yeah, you can just, it's like patching a computer, no problem. These systems in any company in America would not pass the smell test to be a basic CRM to collect basic information. You wouldn't use their system as a calculator if you were just trying to count money in a drawer. That's how bad these systems are. They're not, maybe bad. They're terrible. And when they crash at nearly every environment, I mean, imagine if your computer or your phone only worked 20% of the time. You can only make 20% of the phone calls. Or you had to, reload it and tap on your head, rub on your belly, and do things differently to just move things around, just kind of shake to get it to work. How long are you going to do that for? You don't even like the fact that it takes 1 or 2 seconds for Facebook to load on your deal. You're gonna put up with a system that crashes. You got to reset, and sorry, it's a user error. It duplicated ballots, and we don't know how that happened. They forgot to, load the bubble water canister on the back end of the tabulator, where you got, a tabulator that you load it, and then instead of actually sending it to a system where you actually have a tally system that would then be put online, you call it punch out system. So it's disconnect from the internet, goes to a different computer. Then that computer sends on the information. It's certified at the precinct level. I mean, you could develop a system very easily that does have computers that is both transparent and is truthful. But they don't want to do that either. They don't want to, photo ID, prove that you're an American citizen, show up on election day. They want to say it's convenient, mail-in ballots are good. Nobody can come up with a theory behind how mail-in ballots are good. They don't want to talk about the fact that you have no transparency. You don't know who filled it out. You don't even know if anybody injected other ballots into the system, because the system just validates whatever information is put in front of them. And when you have access to the voter rolls, because you'd have to, in order to make sure you have electronic poll books, you could just manipulate those things, and anybody could print ballots and create an outcome that does not favor the people. Simple. But instead, they want to tell us that we have a 50-50 society and that every vote is 50-50 or 40-40-20, like they did in the primaries in Colorado for governor. They want to tell me that they got it figured out. I've never seen such retardation from the American people as I've seen in just the last 6 years. I'm going to run to Florida. Well, then you have all the problems in Florida, and you see the videos of judiciaries that are basically violating the rights of Americans, and you see the same thing with police officers doing whatever they want, and flock cameras on every corner, and school districts that still are teaching DEI or grooming the children inside of Florida. Tampa, to be exact. Sarasota. Miami. I mean, these are in red states. It's a red area. You shouldn't have these problems, right? But they still have these problems because the systems are designed to defraud the American people. And it doesn't matter what state you're in. One just hides it better than the other. It has never been more clear, the fraud and how you can see the fraud. It's never been more obvious, the fraud and corruption, as it is today. It's obvious. Everywhere you turn, it's just another example of how they have treated the American people like slaves. And not only that, but just like Nazi Germany, you have people that are out there, vigilantes, that are cutting down flock cameras. Use that as an example. Why would you want them to be able to tell you everywhere you go, they have a flock camera, they're basically watching you, watching everything you do, and then keeping a file on you. They're keeping a file on you. And then when they decide that you committed a crime, several times, just in the last couple of weeks, they go and arrest a woman while her kids are at school, husband's out of town, and said, we're going to throw you in jail. Throw them in jail, and we'll find out later that it was all fraudulent. But the problem is with government, and the government we have today, is they all have immunity. And the American people are left to sort through a system that is draconian and expensive. And when you put lawfare against the average American, you destroy that individual nearly overnight, while other Americans sit on the sideline and watch the blood sport and do nothing about it. i.e., 1,800 Americans on J6. Or the fact that Ash Epp is fighting the NAACP and calling her a Nazi and calling her a terrorist and saying that she's a white supremacist. She wins, the appeals court turns it over again and sends her right back out there to have to go through the same turmoil for another 2 years. And you'd think that the government would step in and stop it, but they can't because they're complicit in it. Or the Coomer case. Like we've already won the Coomer case. We've already won. Like we have all the information. Eric Coomer is a crook. He's a crooked, disgusting individual. We've already won. But winning doesn't make a difference when you have a rotted judiciary that's able to act with impunity because they have immunity. Keep in mind, they want to take away immunity from police officers because I don't believe that they're the biggest problem. I believe our rotted judiciary, literally, is subverting the will of the American people and is doing really bad things with foreign-born judges that are trash at best and team evil at worst, while stepping over the Americans in our country. Our entire country has been captured by, we're not headed towards communism, we're in it. And do I think President Trump's going to make some changes? Yeah, I do. I don't believe that he's going to allow it to continue, but that's going to lead to a war because our politicians on both sides of the aisle are betrayers. They're treasonous traitors, which brings me right back to the Raul stuff. I gave them this information in 2022. I took it to congressional offices. Jim Jordan had this information. He had this information, did nothing with it. Did nothing with it. I mean, I can go down the line. I handed it over to so many different people. I'll have to go back through the list of congressional leaders that I handed it off to. All said, yeah, we'll look into it. You think they looked into it? No. We're just now getting the information related to declassified information. And we had it then. They watched this guy go to prison, did nothing with it. The FBI was involved in it. They have all the notes on him. This guy went to the embassy. They had all the notes on that. The State Department has all the information related to Raul Coltor and have done nothing. He sits there and rots in prison. He's been there for years. To make up a story that's, we talk about Fox IT and NCC. NCC happens to hold the source code in Georgia for Dominion and ESNS, and it owns Fox IT. And we're like, oh, that's just a coincidence. This is just retarded. It's retarded that the American people have to be treated like slaves and watch this happen. When you have the information, go get it. But I truly believe it's because we have retarded people in the FBI. I don't believe that. I mean, if you had a guy like Kyle Seraphin, or you had Steve Friend, or you had Phil Kennedy, or if you had some of these other people that were in the FBI that were running things, then you'd have a competent FBI. But right now, we don't have a competent FBI. We don't have a competent, and the CIA is so off the rails that it's disgustingly rotted to the core. Pull up that document that we have for Dominion. All right, roaming networks, talked about it in 2021, 2022. We're able to recover information. This is from their particular website. Roaming networks then conveniently was sold into Cansey, which is a different company that they go through this shell company. Every couple of years, they just wash tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. Go to page 23, if you would. This is all the requirements that they have, references that they have. Now, I want to remind you that I went to Roaming Networks in just outside of Chicago, Illinois, and it was at this place that did IT, did cell towers. It was an industrial deal, and upstairs at the top of these stairs, there was a door, and that door was where Roaming Networks was. Only it wasn't. It wasn't Roaming Networks. It was a front office that didn't exist, and nobody there knew who Roaming Networks was. That was in Elgin, Illinois. Okay, so now let's fast forward from Elgin, Illinois, to what we found in Colorado in 2023, where they had Dominion Voting Systems offices, front offices, one that they had in Littleton that was in a warehouse district, moving out of what they had in Denver, and started basically operating under these shell companies that were like Dominion Solutions. Because they just hide. Is that page 23? That's not page 23. All right. Maybe it's 24. No, go to 22. 22, 22, 22, 22. There we go. Stop. On the far right-hand side, it says Dominion Voting System, implementation of all-flash point storage solution on primary data center in Serbia. What the hell is Dominion Voting Systems doing with a offshore in another country data center for Dominion Voting Systems? Why is the coders that you have for the US election system, 50% of the vote of the American people, in a foreign country? See, I would argue that you're not pissed off enough. I would argue that the American people have been betrayed in a way that is so obvious that everyone is pissed off about it, but no one can really put their fingers on it, because half the people in this country believe the media and believe the people when they say, oh, you know, it's President Trump's fault. And they're all in on it. They're all in on it. But now, what makes it worse is that I trust that President Trump's going to get things done. I trust it. But now 35% of the American people that voted for President Trump feel betrayed right now. And this information's been around since 2022. And now all of a sudden we get information out there. John Solomon comes out there and said there's no evidence of votes being flipped. No. There's no evidence that China came in and beamed a light in and changed votes. That's true, because they didn't need it. They had domestic actors. They had people that were so radically left and so disenfranchised with the American system that they were willing to do whatever they could in order to make sure that they picked and choose who actually represented us in every way, shape, and form in the country. They subverted the voice of the American people. We no longer are living in a place where you have free and fair elections. Every election is fraudulent. Take that down. Okay. So what's the solution? I don't know. I'm going to take it to Washington. We'll see what it does. We'll realign it with the millions of documents that we have, that we know over the years that we've been able to collect, and the declassified information. I'm going to pass this information over to some other investigative journalists. We'll see what they do with it. But I'm going to tell you this. We're in trouble. The country's in trouble. President Trump is going to do something about it. But if you're sitting on the sideline saying, oh, President Trump did this and he did that, man, you're literally drudging through mud with snakes everywhere. It's like Indiana Jones. President Trump has to just sort through everything. And I have my problems. We drop bombs on people that we say that are our enemies over in Iran. But we can't drop proverbial bombs on the heads of people that have betrayed this country. And I don't give a shit what position they're in. We deserve to have a place where we have free and fair, where we have life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, where our children are our responsibility, where society is not driven by the derelicts and the deviants, and it's accepted, where the judges do not have immunity, where they're thrown out on their heads. If you're foreign born and if you're foreign born, you can't be a judge. Period. End stop. We've got to put, with this change in time, we've got to put up new rails to protect the ideals of the American experiment, or let it go forever. And the last thing that I will say is this: nothing to do with the elections, but I want to address it. I was right about Ukraine. No matter, the American people have no appetite for Ukraine or the little evil midget. The Azov Battalion is a Nazi battalion inside of Ukraine that basically has terrorized people for decades. These are people over in Ukraine where Team Evil has been able to exist. This is where the Soroses of the world, everyone, remember Soros got kicked out of Russia. Now you could say Russia's bad and China's bad and they subverted our elections and other. Maybe. I mean, holy shit. Do you know how many elections the United States has destroyed all over the world? You know how many nations they've destroyed? So is Russia playing and doing things to create and play defense or offense or whatever? Probably. Do I care? No. Does China do the same thing? Yes. Are they looking out for the billion people that they have in their country? Yep. Do I believe that the people of China are evil, or the Russians are evil, or that even Ukrainians are evil? The answer is no, I don't. Any more than I believe the American people are evil. We are controlled and used as fodder for the cannons of those that seek power, wealth, and notoriety. I was right in 2022 when I said I would stand on the side of Russia twice on Sunday and every day and twice on Sunday. I was blasted as being anti-American. I didn't know that Ukraine was now part of America. But I'm starting to learn that they can create whatever rhetoric and whatever dream and whatever message they want to create out there. Truth hardly matters anymore. I was right about the biolabs. I was right about the fact they're run by tyrants. I was right about them stealing U.S. tax dollars and having a great time on the forehead of the American people. And no matter where we turn, they keep saying the same thing. Give us more so we can not solve the problem that we're telling you we're going to solve. And they said, Joe, you going on RT, you know, you're a Russian agent. Why would I be going if I was doing anything? First of all, I've never taken a dollar from anyone. Not from a Russian, not from a Ukrainian, not from a Serbian, not from no one. Zero. No one has ever influenced me at all. I have never been influenced in all the times and all the things that I've done to uncover things for the American people, regardless of what era it was, what job I was doing, I've never stood with Team Evil. Ever. But why going on RT News to talk about what's happening in the United States? Why in the world would I go on RT? Wouldn't I ask RT to come on my show? Wouldn't I be pushing RT? It's like Al Jazeera of the early 2000s. Al Jazeera was a truthful network. I would go there to get my information. Why? Because you can't get anything in the United States. They're a bunch of retards. And this is prior to the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act that allowed them to lie to the American people. But as you get further down Team Evil, they want to tell us that, oh yeah, you're because you went on RT. I went on RT because I know what's happening in the United States. I'm not a retard. And so I can talk about the things that have happened in the United States related to foreign policy because I'm not a retard. And because I've had some experience in those environments. And I'm not a retard. And most people in the United States are retards. Jeffrey Sachs is a retard. And now he's the heir apparent authority of voting and foreign policy. Before it was, you know, that he knew how to solve poverty. We didn't do that. We have created people in this country, and it's like, okay, they're the pedigree, they have this degree. Look, I've read more books than every single one of them. And I don't have fancy degrees to show for it. And I don't give a shit about your fancy degrees. What I care about is, do you have the ability to work the problem? Can you fix anything? And these people can't. So I'm going to get out here and talk about all the things related to elections. Why? Because I think the American people deserve to have a seat at the table, and I think they deserve to have prosperity. You cannot have prosperity when everyone is above the line of the law. Everyone's above the law, except for the American people, and the millstone is on your chest. So I want you to think about that. I'm going to take this information to Washington. I hope they do something with it. But at no point during any time have I done something that is self-gratifying. And that is what scares everyone. They all talk to people and say, you know, Joe, he gets a little angry about this and that. Maybe I want to ignite a fire and have you just stop listening to Team Evil or the people on our side that are doing great harm to what is trying to be accomplished. And I think President Trump is doing a tremendous job. I'm going to tell you right now, you can't get me off that. Do I think that he has people around him that are not doing things properly? Probably. He probably knows it too. He's going to win the battles he can. And when the final thing comes into play, he's going to throw the gauntlet down, and he's going to make sure that Team Evil loses. I truly believe that. We got 2 years to do it. After that, anything can happen, but God. All right, so let's pray it out. Father God, we are just. I look at this and the frustration just builds. But we are grateful to be born at a time such as this, to be a part of this restoration. And as I was there last night at the Forrest Frank concert, the one thing that I was just overwhelmed with was I was overwhelmed with this commitment to Jesus, the commitment to just serve you. Father, I am super grateful for the opportunity I have to be on the podcast, to be able to push this information, and for people to trust me enough to hand me the information and know that I'm going to do the right thing with it. And yet Raul is in prison right now. And while we are grateful for his sacrifice and being able to come forward and give this information that ultimately led to him being locked up, we do recognize that we have an obligation to make sure we stay truthful, we stay focused on restoring you to our community and getting rid of Team Evil, and not just in the United States, but around the world. Father, I just ask you to give us the strength to fight through this, to have the courage to overcome adversity, and to do what's right regardless of the consequences. I ask you to bless those people that are sick, and Father, just to lift the burden off of President Trump's shoulders and to lighten the load on the people around him and to make them choose what is right. I ask these things, Father, humbly in Jesus' name. Amen. Yeah, so I'm a terrible guy, by the way. I thought about this, that ends every podcast with a prayer. Maybe that's the part that Kyle Clark and those others should take. Big things happening over the next couple of weeks. It's going to be pretty great. We're going to announce some pretty big changes. I will tell you this, but God, we don't know how it's going to work out. I don't know, but I do know that I'm going to continue to fight and go in that direction of stepping away from Team Evil and just shedding light on truth. That's it. That's all you can do. And work hard. Take care of your families. All right. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. Roku. We're on Roku. Make sure you go over to Roku. Pretty amazing place. If I'm on your TV. And to the people that sent me screenshots, thank you. I do appreciate it. And if you need anything from me, we're going to be on some other channels. We'll be on Amazon soon. And pilled.net. We're on Pilled too. So just a big shout out to the guys over at pilled.net. Check them out. It's got some great stuff going on over there. All right. We'll see you guys later. Have a great night.
Rise up untamed in the heart of the fire where the wild ones roam. Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real. No more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Tame nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Truth forever. True forever.